It was a cold, silent night when Sarah sat on her couch, half asleep, with her tea in hand. She had a long day at work, and was just beginning to unwind when a soft, almost imperceptible knock echoed from the door. Strange, she thought, who could be knocking at this hour? Reluctantly, she got up, feeling a sense of unease growing in her chest. She hesitated for a moment before opening the door, expecting to see someone standing there. But there was no one. The street was empty, lit only by the dim glow of the streetlights. As she glanced down, something caught her eye, a single envelope, carefully placed on the doormat. It was plain and unremarkable, no stamps, no address except for one detail, the faint scent of lavender that clung to it. Sarah froze. The smell transported her back to her childhood, to summers spent with her grandmother, who always kept lavender sachets in her drawers. Her grandmother had passed away 2 years ago, yet the scent felt fresh, vivid, as if it had come directly from the past. Her hands trembled as she picked up the envelope and carefully opened it. Inside was a letter written in handwriting she recognized immediately. It was her grandmother's. Her heart skipped a beat. How could this be? The letter read, "My dearest Sarah, if you are reading this, then I am no longer in this world. There are things I never had the chance to tell you, things I kept hidden for your own protection. But now it's time for you to know the truth. In the old oak tree by the lake, beneath the roots, there is a box. Inside, you will find the answers you seek. You must go there, Sarah, but be cautious. Not everyone can be trusted. With all my love, grandmother." Sarah stared at the letter, her mind reeling. What truth? What box? And why now? 2 years after her grandmother's death, she felt a deep unease stir in her stomach. There had always been whispers about family secrets, but she had never paid attention to them. Now, it seemed there was much more to her grandmother's life than she had ever known. Unable to ignore the pull of curiosity, Sarah knew she had to follow the letter's instructions. The next morning, she drove to the lake, a place she hadn't visited in years. As she arrived, memories flooded back, afternoons spent walking with her grandmother, listening to stories about their family history. The old oak tree stood tall by the water's edge, just as it always had. She approached it cautiously, a small shovel in hand. She began digging at the base of the tree, her heart pounding with each scoop of dirt. After several minutes, the tip of a wooden box began to emerge from the ground. With trembling fingers, she pulled it out, wiped off the dirt, and carefully opened it. Inside, she found an old journal and a small locket, one she remembered her grandmother always wearing. The journal's pages were fragile with age, and the locket bore an engraving of a strange symbol she didn't recognize. She opened the journal and began to read. The entries were filled with stories of her grandmother's life, happy memories at first, but then the tone shifted. The later entries spoke of someone who had been watching their family for years, a man, someone who knew things about them that no one should have known. Sarah's hands shook as she flipped through the pages. Her grandmother had written about hiding from this man, protecting their family from him. There were cryptic notes about a secret that this man had been searching for, something hidden within the locket. Heart pounding, Sarah opened the locket. Inside was a tiny, folded note. She carefully unfolded it to reveal a single line written in her grandmother's hand. "He will come for this. You must protect it. Trust no one." Suddenly, Sarah heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind her. Her body went rigid. Slowly, she turned, and there, standing at the edge of the woods, was a tall figure, cloaked in shadow. The man's eyes locked on her, his expression unreadable. "I've been looking for that locket for a long time," he said in a low, gravelly voice. Stepping closer, Sarah's heart raced. She clutched the locket tightly in her hand, her mind racing as the man moved closer, his gaze fixated on the small piece of jewelry in her grasp. The air around them seemed to thicken with tension, as if the world itself held its breath. Her grandmother's warning echoed in her mind, "Trust no one." Without thinking, Sarah's fingers brushed against the inside of the locket, and she felt something, a small button hidden within its design. Instinctively, she pressed it. In an instant, the locket emitted a brilliant, blinding light. The man stumbled back, shielding his eyes as the intense glow enveloped the clearing. Sarah watched in stunned silence as the light seemed to surge outward, consuming the darkness around them. When the light finally faded, the man was gone. There was no trace of him, no footprints, no sign he had ever been there. Sarah stood frozen, the locket still warm in her hand. She stared at the spot where the man had been, her breath coming in shallow gasps. What had just happened? What kind of power had been hidden in that locket? Slowly, realization dawned on her. The locket hadn't just been a family heirloom. It had been a shield, a safeguard against whatever dark force had been after her family for generations. Her grandmother had known. She had been protecting Sarah all along, even after death. With the locket still clutched in her hand, Sarah closed the journal and placed it back in the box. She had uncovered the truth, the secret that had been buried for so long. But now, she knew that the responsibility of protecting it had passed to her. As she stood beneath the old oak tree, Sarah felt a strange sense of peace settle over her. The threat was gone, and the burden of the family's past had been lifted. Her grandmother had given her the strength to face it, and now, she could finally move forward. With the locket hanging safely around her neck, Sarah walked away from the lake, the weight of the mystery no longer pressing down on her shoulders. For the first time in a long while, she felt free.